Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, it seems, is too good for the rest of us. He's been flying private, it turns out, a whole bunch of times. Let's put it up there on the screen. Secretary Buttigieg has now flown almost 20 times on taxpayer-funded jets. Now, I really enjoy the way that they justify this, Crystal. They say that the government only flies private whenever it's actually cheaper to do so. One of the flights, however, that Secretary Buttigieg took was actually from Washington to Las Vegas. Now, having taken that flight before, I actually know there is like a direct Southwest Airlines flight that you could easily take DC to Vegas, which you could take for, let's say, a couple of $100s. There is no way in hell that it was somehow cheaper, even if you were to buy like 25 tickets, to charter a Cessna private plane and fly from Washington to Vegas on official business. And that is just one of many of these uses by Secretary Buttigieg. So people know, renting one of these planes charges $5,000 per hour to the taxpayer. $5,000 per hour. So impossible. And the only justification is whenever you're traveling to like a place with a very, very small airport. I guess it would take, many hours to do so. But then even there, federal rules prevent them from doing this unless they can technically justify it's cheaper. I honestly think that some of these need to be looked into because if you'll remember, we had Secretary Tom Price actually resign in 2017 for his private jet use.
That's right. I mean, it seems to me, first of all, the tenure of Pete Buttigieg as Department of Transportation Secretary has been a historic cluster F.
Yeah.
I mean, in every single way, it turned out that this job, which he thought was just going to be about like flying around on a private jet, going to ribbon cuttings, it turned out it was actually important. We had a massive supply chain crisis. Then, we have a massive airline issue, which we've talked about in terms of their price gouging and them canceling mass amounts of flights, huge lines at the airport. I mean, just the flight travel experience has so incredibly degraded over the past couple of years. And Pete has been asleep at the switch. He hasn't done anything. We've talked to David Dayen about some of the powers that he could use and that he could wield in order to bring the airlines to heel, has chosen not to do it. And so he screws up air travel. And remember when he was flying to New York?
Yes.
And they reported he had to drive because there were so many delays.
Right.
That's what I read into this, is basically air travel is so screwed that Pete is no problem for me. I can opt out and I can take my private jet. And then the cherry on top, of course, of his tenure as Department of Transportation Secretary was the rail strike the averted rail strike and the fact they crammed down this bad deal, which he was involved with the negotiations to bring about, and that also sort of falls under his purview. So he's just about screwed up every part of our transportation infrastructure during his time in that position.
He's been a terrible cabinet secretary. And I forgot to even mention, while the rest of us were delayed, I personally was delayed for hours and hours, even in cross-country flights. And he's, on taxpayer-funded private.
He doesn't have to worry about it. It doesn't affect him.
Yeah, he doesn't have to worry at all. I've friends and family members who've had bags lost on honeymoon trips and others, stories about brides breaking down in airports. It must be nice. It must be nice.
Must be nice.
All right, we'll see you later.